All right, Helio, waiting on the stream. Started. All right, I guess we're kicking it off right now. Everyone who came, welcome, welcome. Tonight, we have an interview lined up with 10th Man. He's one of the panelists from FED Debates, Flat Earth Debates, and that's from Nathan Oakley 1980's channel. And I'm a part of that panel as well. And we have shows every day, every morning, pretty much from 9 Eastern and on, every day, Monday through Friday. So you can check him out there. So I'm real excited to be doing this interview style because it allows for us to have a discussion about information rather than debating having the information getting lost. So my goal is for as many people as possible to see genuine conversations between flat earthers so it clears up some of the misconceptions about us and about the topic overall. So okay, we'll get it started now, and I guess I'm going to ask you the first question. So for the people who are still brand new, let's start with the most basic question. What is a sextant and what is it used for?
Check. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're coming in clear, coming in hot.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for asking me to be on. Sextant is an angle measuring device, and it's used to measure angles. And they've used it for centuries for navigation. Started off with mariners, and they also have a bubble sextant that works on airplanes as well, because they needed to know where they were when they were 20, 30,000 feet in the sky when the aviation first got started. So that's it. It's a sextant measuring, angle measuring device, and sextant stands for sixth of a circle. We'll be showing some slides later, so I could go more into depth when we see the slides.
Awesome. All right. So, what made you begin looking into the sextant and how it works? How'd that jump off?
It happened quite, almost the same time the Black Swan came out in January 2020. When QE put the Black Swan Modus Tollens logical consistency argument together, I wanted to know what it was, so I had a call with him just so I could understand it. And once I understood what it was, in my mind, the sextant image came in my mind at the same time, same month, January 2020. And I said to QE, I said, I bet the sextant will take this logical consistency argument that you have put together with the Black Swan to hold different place, because the sailors use that to sail. And once I understood the Black Swan and the horizon and all that, and then Q said, you're probably right, but do the research, don't come out with it right away. Let's get the Black Swan going first. And I said, yeah, that makes sense. So I just dove right into it, January 2020.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's been a couple of years. It's we've actually been speaking now for a few years, and I've heard you mention that you.
Well, hang on, let me finish. Just because I started research January 2020 doesn't mean I shared it right away. I waited a long time, and I started dripping it on Flat Earth Debate Show in the pre-show, because I had so much information, and it was so devastating for the ballers that I said, what's the best way to do this? Especially hearing the trouble everyone was having on the baller side with the Black Swan, how they weren't able to understand it or didn't want to understand it. I realized this. I realized when the sextant came in, it would be even more devastating. So I just dripped it a little bit, wanting more people to do research, and more people did. As of now, Rob Durham has done great research on it. He's got a video out using his CAD program. Adam Meekin's done research on it. Brian's Logic's done research on it. Flatzoid has done it. Mitchell from Australia interviewed me twice, and he's done his own sextant research. He did 8 months of research before he put his first video out. Refracted Curvature, who's on FED Debates, he's having a great time with it. He's showing how you can turn a kitchen into a sphere, which is pretty funny. and then, of course, QE has shared on his channel how you can't have an elevation angle with a curved adjacent. Eli, you've shared, and then Michael Kahn has shared, and I hope I didn't forget anyone else, but the whole idea was to get more eyeballs on it, and it's just working, perfect when it's spread out like that.
Yeah. So, do you have any direct experience? I know you had a boat in Cali and you'd go to Catalina. So, did you get any experience with the Sextant or?
Oh no, I had all the technological wonders, chart plotters and radar. I think I had the Furuno system on my 30-footer, and but I remember going into the different shops in Newport Beach, and I remember seeing a Sextant, and I've handled one. I never had a desire to buy one or dig deep into it, but it just, when I heard the Black Swan, it was like, it's time to check that tool out. And so now I currently own a German-made sextant called Freiberger, and then I also bought a bubble sextant on eBay and compiled a good resource of books on the subject.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, that leads into the next question. So, initially, how'd you approach your research? Like, did you buy any books, watch any videos? Like, how did it happen first?
Um, Started watching videos, started seeing articles on YouTube about books, then went to Google and saw what were the main books, started following channels, going to PDFs, downloaded a ton of PDFs from universities on the subject. Also went into archive books. I've got 600 books downloaded on Sextant from the 1600s, from the 1600s to now, all on PDFs. And I've compiled my own books. You want me to give you some of the titles?
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to
Okay.
that. Well, just before you get to that, just briefly go over like the first thing you saw as a red flag in your research. Like, what stood out first to you?
Angle measuring device. Sextant is an angle measuring device. And an angle is two straight lines that meet and create a vertex. That can never work on a ball, a curved surface. That was the main thing right there.
Now, is that your flat Earth definition of an angle, or?
Well, all the books I bought, all the videos I watched, all the PDFs, all the EDU sites, they're all heliocentric baller sites. There's nothing that I wish there was some, but there wasn't any. So I had to go to their material and find all the paradoxes. They show in pictures a globe, but in functioning of the sextant, it can never work on the globe. But they got them together, and that's how they fool people.
Interesting. Okay. So, did you speak to any experts or?
Oh yeah, I've called a navigation school. I've talked to a YouTube channel guy who does sextant videos. I've talked to, emailed, contacted people, but it's not like I said, "Hey, I'm a flat earther. I'm going to expose you." That wasn't the way I contacted them. I just contacted and say, "Hey, I have a question. How does this work?" Okay, thanks. Validating what I read.
All right. So, you said that you were hesitant to share the information. So, when did you decide it was time to share it with Flat Earth Debate?
Actually, if I said that, I'm wrong. I wasn't hesitant. I was planning a strategy because it was so devastating, and I wanted to not be the only guy. So I started leaking it out in the pre-show on Nathan's channel. By the way, if you want to hear me talk about it 5 days a week, subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980. That's where I'll debate the subject with the panel members who have also done their own study, which is great. But I said, okay, if I say this, what's their comeback? Oh, well, they'll say this. And if I say, and they say that, I'll say this. And so I started role-playing how it would go. And I said, okay, the best way to do this is to sprinkle it on little by little and set some traps. So they've already bid on a few traps. There's a few more traps and the big ones at the end, which I can't talk about right now.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I can remember on the show for a while. It, man, it must have been at least a year. I don't know. But for a long time in the pre-show, like you shared diagrams and you just shared notes from official sources. You'd be like, "Listen, listen, I'm quoting this. Go to this site, or look at what it says here in this book." Right. So,
Right.
what's the reason that you did it the way you did? Like, what were you hoping to see happen with this strategy?
The best witness is a hostile witness. I used their books, their definitions, showed their paradoxes. The books share a lot of truth, but they also go against what they say in the books as well. So there's a paradox. So you can't have an angle measuring device work off of a curved adjacent. You can't get an angle off a curved adjacent. So you have to dig deep to see what they're doing. And that was the key. Let's use their material, their teachers, their system, and let's break it apart. And it's totally come apart for them because they have to find angles now. They have to redefine what an angle is. Well, good luck with that.
Right, because the angle that you're measuring is the angular distance between the what you're going to be sighting in the sky celestially and the ground. So it's the angular distance from the point in the sky to the ground below it. It's GP, right?
Well, you bring the sun or star or luminary. That's one of the 64 ones in the air almanac, and close to 200, if not over 200, in the nautical almanac. But most people use the 64 main stars. And what you do is you use the index arm and bring that down to the horizon. So it's the angle measurement horizon to where the altitude of that star or sun is. And there's your angle. So those are two straight lines that meet at the vertex, which is your eyeball.
All right, cool. So what claim like would you make that you could stand by with the sextant? If anyone asks, like, "Oh, 10th man is making claims," what are you exactly claiming?
My only claim is been the same since the beginning. A sextant is an angle measuring device, instrument, and an angle is two straight lines that meet at a vertex, a point. And how can that ever work on a curved surface? It can't. That's my claim.
Good, good. So we're told that the sextant or the manuals show that the sextant works on a globe. So what do you have to say to those people who say, "Well, of course the sextant works on a globe. Here's a picture right here."
Well, of course, I'm using their books. They're going to have the globe in their books, but you can't get an angle off of a curved surface. So you better find another instrument than the sextant because it can never work from the surface of the globe. And what we're going to find out later with some pictures, I could tell you right now, they're getting it from a presupposed center where there's an equatorial plane. So they're even not measuring it off a curved surface. They're saying it's coming from the equatorial plane. They cut the Earth in half, and there's your plane. So they're even saying it comes from there. But the navigator, he's on the surface of this so-called sphere, and that's where the sextant is at. There's nobody at the center of the Earth with the sextant.
Right, right.
So guess what? Even they know they can't get an angle from the surface. That's why all the nautical almanac tables are from the center of the Earth. Well, what's at the center of the presupposed Earth? A plane.
Basically.
So see, there's no curved adjacent there, is there?
No, there isn't. Absolutely not. Funny enough. So now, with all of the research that you've done, you've said often that there's a mixture of truth and falsehood. What do you mean by that?
Well, like you just said, you'll see a picture of a circle, and then you'll see a tangent plane, and then you'll see all these lines and whatever, and then they'll say, this is how it's working. Well,
Mm.
since we know an angle can never be achieved from a curved adjacent, that's not how it's working.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have a curved adjacent and still achieve an angle. That's impossible. So why would you have those two together in the book? Because of the deception
Right.
factor. There's a deception factor there. Really, it's from the center, but no one's at the center with the sextant. But it's not even from the center. It's from the surface of the real Earth we live on, and then they transpose it to the center.
So, how many books have you bought on celestial navigation? And
It's an ever growing list. I got 4 more. I just ordered. They're coming because when you research one, you go to the bibliography and they say get this one, or you see something and you say, okay, I better get that. Okay, just what I have here on my table, Moving Heaven and
all
Earth
right,
by
lay
John.
it on us.
Here we go. Moving Heaven and Earth by John Henry, Navigation Afloat by Alton B. Moody, Natural Navigator, TM 1206, Celestial Air Navigation, Sacred Geometry of the Earth by Vidler and Young, Air Force Manual 64-5 on Survival, Introduction to Nautical Science by Chase, The Almagist, and going to this other part, we've got Navigation by Harold Jacoby, Low Ship Astro Navigation, Celestial Navigation for Yachtsmen, TM 1205 Air Navigation, Technical Manual, and what's the one underneath that? Practical Talks by an Astronomer, Line of Position Navigation, Sextant Handbook, 2nd edition, Bruce Bauer. Wright is the author, Most Probable Position. Primer of Navigation by Mixter. Astronomical Algorithms by Gene Meas. Surveying and Leveling Instruments. The History of Celestial Navigation. Show Me the Proof. Celestial Navigation by Adjutant. Air Almanac 206. Celestial Navigation by HO249 by Milligan. Tom Conliffe, he's got a YouTube channel, Celestial Navigation. I got his book. I've got 4 versions of Bowditch, American Practical Navigator. I've got 2019 version. I've got 1943, 1965, and 1995. See what they added. I've got the original one downloaded, 1802, on the computer. Hobbs, Marine Navigation 2, Celestial Electronic, The Nautical Sextant by W.J. Morris, and Easy Celestial Nautical Almanac, 2021. My prized possession, volume 51, volume 1 and 2, Air Navigation from the Air Force on the bubble sextant and all that. Celestial Navigation, 2nd edition, right? Celestial Navigation using Site Reduction Tables, number 249, another book on that. 14th edition of the Dutton's Navigation and Piloting, and one on the bottom I can't see because it's covered, and 4 on the way.
Man, so that's an extensive list, my man. You're talking about days and weeks of research and study, and it's basically based around the main principle that you have to have 2 straight lines for an angle. Basically, like this is what you're trying to corroborate, and all these books probably trying to figure out how it would work on a sphere.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a very enjoyable process. I love research. I think that's something I love doing. And when I got my teeth into it, I said, I got them. I know exactly what they're doing, how they're tricking. I better go get the books in case they're not, one day you can't get them. This will be left to my grandkids as a resource, how the ball went down one day.
Beautiful. So in regards to trying to summarize it for the people out there that they can't remember a ton of things, let alone what they had for breakfast. So how do you share your information on the sextant with others in a way that they can digest it?
Well, I've been doing it on FED Debates Monday through Friday, so anybody listening should subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980 and come and hear the pre-show, which is where I lay out a lot of slides And then when I have a present,
And
I'll
you
do
have
it
a
on the.
channel as well, right? I know
Yeah.
you don't post much on there, but tell us a little about that.
Well, 10th Man Rising, 1-0, or, yeah, is it, how's it listed?
Let me
One,
post these in there.
yeah, just post that. I don't go to it too often because I'm so busy in research that I decided I would uh, help Mitchell from Australia, as well as my 5 day a week with Nathan Oakley channel. Do everything there first. I'm also moving out of the state. And when I get some time, I will be loading my channel with everything, with all these books. So if you want to subscribe in advance and wait for that day to come, that's great too.
Okay. So let's see here. You've been talking a lot about the sextant traps. You alluded to it earlier in the interview. Um,
Mhm.
Now you didn't go too deep into it. What can you tell us about those traps?
Well, the big one so far has been dip correction. They fell for it. Mitchell was fantastic. He played the role great. I said, Mitchell, I need to set him up for the dip correction trap. Can you do this, this, and the other? He said, I'd be more than happy to do it. So he did, and the fishnet came in with four, maybe five or six ballers. They all bid on it, and then we unleashed it on them. So I got that video on Mitchell from Australia's channel. So the second one I did there. First one's on the Sextant, I believe, and the second one was dip or not to dip. That is the correction. And I
So can you
suggest
give a
everyone to.
brief rundown of it?
Yeah, I will,
Of
but I just think you
what
need
tip
to do.
is?
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's fine. I just need to say, go watch it at Mitchell's channel so you get the full thing. But basically, a sextant, when you're using it at sea, the only thing stable is the horizon. So you aim your sextant at the horizon, and you go through the methodology. When you're in an airplane, uh, they have a bubble, and the bubble gives you a horizontal. So it gives you the horizontal plane you're looking for immediately. Okay. And there's a way to do it. They do it for like 2 minutes. It's done in intervals of, I think, 15 seconds, if I'm not far off on that. And then they take an average because the pilot is trying to fly the plane in a straight line without too much bumpiness. And so they'll take an average of all those sightings in 2 minutes. I think there was 60 different times that they, do a measurement from it. So then you got the landlocked. If you're landlocked like Lewis and Clark on their trail, they use a pan and they fill it with mercury or viscous fluid, and then you got to cover it so there's no agitation by the wind, and you're able to do a artificial horizon that way. The one on the airplane's artificial horizon with the bubble. The one on land where there's no natural sea horizon is going to be done with a pan filled with, say, something like mercury, and sides covered, top covered, and no agitation on the surface of that liquid. And then you have to half the angle on the artificial horizon on land because you're sighting the same star twice. So you can see those things are covered in the research I've done. But to dip or not to dip, that's the correction. Why do you do dip correction in the ocean when you got the real horizon and you don't have to do it these two other ways? I mean, all three work. Well, it's because you might be 10 feet above the surface of the water. So you got minus 10 feet to get to the surface of the water. So dip correction is nothing more than height of eye above the surface of the water. So you got to get your eyeballs on the water to make it geometric. So you get your 90-degree. To get your horizontal, because if you're 10 feet above and you're aiming at the horizon, you're 10 feet above it and you're got a little angle there. So you got to bring that down so you get your horizontal baseline, because it's not going to work with a curved adjacent either, right? So you want to make sure when you get your 90, it's a true 90.
Okay, well said, well said. So you've also said that you're saving the best for last. I'm still guessing at what that is, but what does
It's
it
a whop.
mean?
It's a whopper.
Hmm.
I'm waiting for a few things to happen and someone to speak.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So, in your opinion, is it necessary to actually use a sextant to be able to speak about it? Because
Why?
typically you have the ballers who say, "Oh, well, he's never even owned a sextant. He doesn't know what he's talking about." What do you say to that?
Well, I own a sextant. I don't think you have to use it to know how it works. You know how many videos I've downloaded and watched them do it in front of me every single step of the way? I'm just telling you what they say. So if I can't go to a YouTube channel by a professional navigator who's showing me every step of the way and tell you this is what they do, then that means every one of these, and these are all heliocentric, people who say this is how to do it. So if I can't use them as a resource, what can I use?
So why do you think that a lot of us on the panel and a lot of others are starting to state that the sextant is the number one flat Earth proof? What do you think that is?
Well, that's what I saw when I was doing it. And I said, what's the best way to present it? And that's why I did the drip method. And I wanted more eyes on it. I wanted others to come and say, I've done the same research Tenth did, and here's what I found. And we're there now. Rob Durham put it to a CAD program, and he tried to do it with a curved surface, and the computer wouldn't let him do it. He says, you need a straight line for that.
That's
So
still very hilarious.
it's so devastating because it's telling you it's an angle measuring device, the tool itself, and you need two straight lines for that angle, and it meets a common point, which is a vertex. That could never happen on a globe. The sextant works, though. It's just not working on a globe.
So, is that why anti-flat earthers immediately respond with, "Don't say 90, don't say
Oh,
right
yeah.
angles. Triangulation has nothing to do with celestial navigation."
Well, that was a beauty there because guess where it says 90? 90, that was another trap. I can't believe how quickly they fell into this one. It was you
That
who
was the
told me.
first day. The first day.
It was you.
Because that's
It
what they
was
do, right? They said, you know what? Let's not talk about the meat and potatoes. Let's pretend that that's not there. You know,
Eli.
we're
Eli.
cool.
Eli. You remember you were the one who told me that someone came and said, "Don't say 90."
Yeah,
And I
that was
said,
Brandon's show.
"Yeah, yeah."
It
And
was very animated too.
I said, "Wow, that already happened." I thought that well, who would even do that? Okay, well, in all the books I have, guess what? You subtract minus whichever word you like your altitude from 90. Everything is subtracted from 90. And if you just go look on your phone and Google and say, what's a 90 degree? It's a right angle, perpendicular, two straight lines. Has that little box there. So guess what? 90 is what you got to subtract from. That's telling you the earth is flat.
All right, man. Beautiful. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you here. And that was a really, really nice chat. I'm enjoying it. Hopefully, we can keep it going so we can get some of you guys in and ask questions. Kind of just message in the chat, and I'll give you the role so that you can speak and ask your question. If you guys are there.
So you can actually use that sextant to measure the heights of trees. Exactly, because that's all it's used for, measuring angles.
No, because that's the sextant is used many ways. That's just one of the ways you can use it. When you're on a boat and you're near shore, you have charts, and the charts show you landmarks like a lighthouse or different things. And the navigator will aim at this lighthouse, but in the chart it tells him how high the cliff is and how tall the lighthouse is. So he's got information that he doesn't have at sea about a sun or a star. And in their books, they're not measuring the height of the star like a distance. It's the angular measurement of it, because in their books, the stars are light years away. They're not even trying to do that. So if we're going to stick to the official narrative, then the angular measurement is the angle above the horizon, and that co-altitude, when you minus from 90, is the remaining number that you times by 60 nautical miles to get your distance from the GP of that star to the observer. So it's a whole different usage there. You could turn it sideways and get the angle from a church building to a lighthouse as well. So horizontal angle as well versus a vertical angle, which is similar to a celestial angle with a star, except no one knows the height.
Awesome. Hey, Radwin, how'd you come off mute? Did they change the perms or?
Oh, I didn't know I wasn't allowed. You were saying ask questions or something. I guess I wasn't paying attention. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm trying to figure out if I have to do something for everyone else to go to come off mute.
I unmuted myself.
Oh, okay. Mm. And no one else is responding in the interview voice text, so
We can show the pictures.
all right, cool. Yes, let me share my screen and we can go through a couple of slides.
It's more than a couple, but
Yeah, because you guys got to kind of get a picture of what's going on. No pun intended. I'm surprised that there have been no puns so far.
there's still time, Eli, there's still time.
Wait, time out. Oh, sorry. I do have a question that came in from the live stream.
Okay.
Guys, try to put it into the. You know what? I'll take them from the live stream. It's no problem. So, SE Montreal asks, "Ask 10th Man how confined he feels. That if I place him in the middle of the ocean somewhere, he can find his way home."
Well, that's what they do, don't they? The stars above us have a specific place on Earth, and in the book they tell you where they are at those times. And when you watch a few videos, you're able to use the stars at night as well as the sun during the day and the moon to figure out where you are.
Right, because it's not just the sextant. Although I've heard some seasoned people say they could just use the sextant. But you want to have that almanac, right?
No, it's all sextant without an almanac doesn't make any sense. I mean, you could probably for latitude, but if you want longitude and you want Greenwich time, I mean, you're going to need a few things to make this thing work out. This is why I say go do your own homework, watch the videos. It's quite the process when you watch them. This is why my initial claim was, okay, do I need to go through all this stuff to prove this could only work on a plane? No. What proves it could only work on a plane is the fact that it's an angle measuring device, number one. And number two, what's an angle? An angle is two straight lines meeting at a common point called a vertex. And then what do you do with the information? You minus it from 90, a right angle. Well, okay, that's enough for me. It's over right there.
Okay. Paula, I think you have the role. I think you can speak now. And Dave, I also see you too. Give me 1 second for you. But Paula, you should be able to unmute. I'm hoping. Technical difficulties? 1 second.
I unmuted level up for you.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Yeah, I didn't have a question. I'm just like, you were asking if anybody could unmute themselves, and I'm like, nope.
Oh, okay.
But sorry.
So,
Thanks anyway.
so Dave, you said you had a question?
Can I talk?
Yes, you can, sir. Welcome.
Okay. Good shows, good information. I appreciate everything. 10th Man's sounds like he's put a lot of effort into this. We appreciate your efforts, man.
Thank you.
My question may or may not be answered. I just was curious if any of the older material you run across, that any anecdotal evidence of sailors knowing they weren't on a globe when they were using this thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The Portuguese sailors, when they used the quadrant, they believed the Earth was flat, and it worked for them as they came around Africa, going to India.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, anybody that was proficient in using it, if they'd actually reasoned it out, they would have known they weren't on curvy water anyway, right? But I was just, it would be interesting to highlight some of those ancient, not ancient, but 1800s or whatever, some of the sailors, some of their statements about they know the globe was bullshit. If there's anything like that, that's all I was saying, you know.
Yeah, it's there. I mean, I've seen them. Like I said, I could cite the Portuguese sailors who used the quadrant, and they believed the Earth was flat, and they were sailing on a flat Earth.
It's funny to me that this thing was right here all along, and people have been using it for hundreds of years as a globe killer. But I appreciate your efforts, man. You know.
Yeah,
Shut up.
let me say something to that. Whether or not you take a sextant and use it, and right now, most everyone who's using it thinks the Earth is a ball. The criteria is, it doesn't matter what the Portuguese believed or did, or what today's navigators believe or do. The criteria is, what is the tool capable of? It's an angle measuring device. That's all it is. It's a big protractor. Okay, so now what's next? Define an angle. What's an angle? Two straight lines meeting a common point called a vertex. You don't have any straight lines on a ball. You don't have any straight lines on a sphere. Then they say minus it from 90. Well, you don't have a right angle on a sphere, but you do if you're going to use the sextant.
All right, so let's get into the slides. Now would seem like as good a time as any.
Or am I going to see it on your screen so I can keep up?
Yes, give me 1 second. So I just have to. What? I actually can't share my screen. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the slides in the chat. So you want to go through them in order, and I'll just share them as you go along?
Yeah, we know where we're starting and we know where we're ending, and I'll just kind of let you know. So the first one is, you tell me if it's already showing.
Let me just get to the interview voice text. Yep. Okay.
Ready to
It's
go?
in there.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is obviously a sextant. It's showing line of sight to the horizon. It shows different parts of it, the telescope, the eyepiece, and you can see on the top right, you bring the sun down with the index arm, and you toggle it on the horizon, but barely touching that surface. You don't want to go below it. Go to the next slide. It's another view of a sextant. Is that what you see?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So here it says light from sun, or star, or moon comes through the index mirror, and then light from a horizon, and then see that black curved arrow? That's your angle. And see that curved bottom, the scale? That's the arc of the sextant, much like a protractor. And it's pretty obvious here. And then the micrometer allows you to do fine tuning on the degrees. So you got degrees, minutes, and tenths of second. Next slide. Here's a older picture of a person using it. And we won't stay much on this, but there's the arc. Those are the arc minutes. In case someone thinks it means the Earth is an arc. Wrong. Next slide shows a guy, and You see the 0 to 90, Eli?
Yep.
Okay, so what's above you directly is your zenith, and horizon's at 0. So if you're holding a sextant, just like previously with that guy, you would bring one of those stars down to the horizon and measure the angle and minus it from 90. Can't have a 90 on a curved surface. Next slide.
Yep.
So this one is like a snow globe, but this is from a Navy site. It shows a Navy ship in the middle, and it's got a flat plane there. I mean, it's a disc, but it's still flat. And there's your angle, horizon and the star.
That picture right there is pretty telling.
Pretty much.
Right. Right.
Cheap.
It's as telling as it gets.
I mean, come on. It's a Navy picture. Look at it.
GP stands for geographical position, where the star is directly overhead. They need to put that line down. We'll show that in the future slide. Next slide. This is the Alt-Az system.
Yep.
Horizontal, obviously, Earth-based. And forget everything below. We're back to that Navy picture. If you forget everything below, there's your altitude and your direction from the azimuth starting from north. And see that angle? It's on the flat plane. You can't get it on a curved surface. Next slide. Back to the Navy site. Here's the ship. Here's sea level. Where's the star here? It's 5 degrees above the horizon. What's the angle? 85 degrees. I mean, if you can't see what's going on here, I don't know. But that's a right angle, and you figured out that your altitude was 5, so your co-altitude is 85. Now you just times 85 by 60, and that's how far you are from the GP of that star, which is the zenith position of the star. Next slide. Here we go again. Observer, star, the altitude. You need a flat plane. Same happening on the curvature part. This is happening from the origin. We'll be covering that in a minute. But again, an angle is 2 straight lines. That's what you got there. Next slide. Observer, this ain't showing that well, but observer, star, distance, and then the circle of equal altitude below with the same blue as the distance. That's a radius from the GP of the star to the observer. And the question is, are radius lines curved or straight? Answer is straight.
That picture there is an example of the trick they play. You have to go from the center of Earth. You have to create that angle. Then you have to move that angle to where you're standing and then use that as your triangle. That's the trick that they use that you can't have. That's just a trick. It's an optical illusion.
You got the next slide, Eli, the periscope film? Okay, screen capture here. So here's an airplane, say 30,000 feet in the air. Here's a ship on the surface. You see it's 60 degree, and then shows the GP. And then where's it coming from? It's emanating from the center. Well, who's at the center with the sextant? Nobody. So guess what's at the center? Equatorial plane, a flat surface. What's on the surface of the Earth? There's no plane. It's curvature. Sextant can't work from a surface of this globe depicted here. So it's working from the center, and this is where they have to say, well, we assume sunlight's coming in parallel so that this corresponding angle from the center could be the same for the ship as well as the airplane. You see the trick here. Sunlight doesn't come in parallel, it's divergent, number one. And number two, nobody's at the center with a sextant. It has to work on the surface, but it can't work on the surface because you have a curved adjacent. Next slide.
Right. Insane. Yep.
So, all right, so the 30 degree angle times 60 is 1,800 nautical miles. Where's the baseline? See that dotted line at the center? That needs to be on the surface, but it's not. This is the trick. Next slide. So, how about if we just show you what we're talking about on land? There's a star represented by the maypole, and the GP of that star is in the middle of this circle of equal altitude. My, that looks like a right angle, doesn't it?
That sure does.
How can that happen on the surface? It can't. That's in those previous pictures. That's happening at the center because you have an equatorial plane there. But that's made up because we don't live on a globe, or else you'd have radius proof black swan, right? So the whole point here is they measure it flat on the surface, tell you they're getting it from the center. Next slide. Here's the bubble sextant. And this is what the bubble would do at 30,000 feet. It would give you the horizontal you need for your flat baseline. All you need is a flat baseline to get an angle. And guess what? If you have a flat baseline at 30,000 feet, guess what's below your parallel? A flat Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Next. So here's one from a site on a paper plate, just to make it simple for kids, I guess. Zenith position of the sailor on the boat is directly above him. Horizon's there. There's your 90. The altitude measurement from the star above the horizon is colored in red. And the co-altitude is yellow. And that's what you times 16 nautical miles. So, I mean, you can't get any more right angle than this.
How do you know which star you're picking?
They have them in the books. You know ahead of time. You plan for it early morning, and just as the sun's going down, so you can see them. And they have 4 or 5 or 6 they do one run and pick the best 3 to have a fix. During the day, they use the sun, also the moon. The Air Almanac has 64 prominent. The Nautical Almanac, 200 or so. Next slide. Coordinate systems.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's happening. This is what's happening. But that don't look like a globe.
Man, you guys following along, just looking at this, it's very obvious, almost like a 5-year-old tried to cover up spilled juice. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay,
it's insane.
let's move on. Are you on the sextant or the micrometer drum in red?
Micrometer drum. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and the vernier in blue, and the degrees in green. So there's the degrees, 29 degrees, right? 45, 46, 47 minutes, and 5/10 right there. So that's it. Degrees, minutes, and seconds. And then you go to the book and you find out everything else.
So this
Next.
So when you're using it, it's sturdy. You're dialing all that in, right? You're getting it roughly close, and then you're dialing it in.
Yeah, they say. I mean, there's a lot of practice that goes into it to where you're doing it properly through a lot of training of doing it wrong, and then they'll say once you get the hang of it, it's fairly quick. And then as soon as you say mark, you count the seconds first on the chronometer, then the minutes. And then you get the degree reading because the seconds are important. And so watch the videos. It's absolutely phenomenal how this tool works.
I've marked them already and already subscribed to you.
Okay, so here you have a celestial body somewhere over the Earth. That's its zenith position in red, directly over the Earth. So the GP would be directly there, the ground position. And the boat's here somewhere. Next slide.
Mm-hmm.
You get your sextant angle measurement, and obviously he's already done dip correction, so the red line is showing on the surface of the water. There's your angle. Next slide. How does that work on this? That teeter-totter, you see that?
Mm.
That can't work.
Where you go with people.
By the way, this slide and the two before are from a navigation site on YouTube. I did not do this. This is really what they believe.
How does it
So
not
this
ring
isn't.
bell with those people that look at these pictures?
So this isn't a flat earther didn't just stick that boat on a
No,
globe.
no. I played the video on Nathan's show just to prove I didn't do this slide. This is from an official navigation site.
Wow. Alrighty.
But see how this is? How crazy it looks, teeter-totter? But if you take that to the center, it's going to work. Because guess what's at the center? A plane, equatorial plane. But really, there is no center because we're not on the ball. So they got it from the surface, transposed it to the center. They even know it can't work. Next slide. You see the two Navy guys?
Mm-hmm.
So here he is using the sextant, and he's going to say mark, and this guy's going to take down the seconds, minutes, degrees, and everything. Next slide. You can see here the star is over the Earth somewhere. There's a Navy ship. Does that look like a 90?
Definitely does.
Can't have a 90 on the Earth's surface if the Earth's a sphere. Next slide. Does that look like a triangle?
1 second here. Okay.
You see that triangle, the right angle?
Mm-hmm.
So there's your angle measurement in that white. Next slide. You're somewhere on that circle. You don't know where you are, but if there was another boat with the same degrees and angle measurements, they'd be on that same circle as you. That's the first circle of equal altitude right there. That radius line
I mean,
is right.
this is very intuitive until they tell you you have to imagine you're on a globe. That's when it gets confusing. But
Yeah.
minus that, it makes all the sense in the world.
Okay, let's go next slide. You see a protractor?
Mm-hmm.
See the origin? The origin is where the vertex is. You see that baseline to that protractor? Sextant is nothing more than a glorified protractor.
Yep.
What's an angle? What's an angle? Two straight lines meeting at a vertex. See that arc? It's the arc of the sextant, the scale. Not of the Earth. Next slide. Names of angles. Is that what you're on?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we know what an acute angle is anything less than 90 degrees. We know what a right angle is, it's 90 degrees. Obtuse angle is more than 90, but less than 180. What's a straight angle? 180. Reflex angle and a full rotation to make a circle. What do all the books say you minus your altitude degree from? 90.
90.
That's a right angle. The Earth is not a sphere. All their books. This is the other big. When I saw this, it was over.
From space.fm, what's that?
Where are you at? Are you on the next slide?
Yeah. What parts of an angle?
Measuring degrees
Measuring degrees. Yep. Got it.
in red. In red, yeah. Using a protractor. What's the base of the protractor? Is it curved?
Of course not.
It's over. Next slide. Back to altitude azimuth, Earth-based coordinate system. You see a curved bottom? I don't see a curved bottom.
Super straightforward.
Next slide. Azimuth angle, horizontal angle along the horizon. That's from north for your bearing. Altitude angle, vertical angle above the horizon. How can you have an elevation angle or altitude angle with a curved adjacent? You can't.
You really can't. You really can't.
All these slides are from their books. Chapter 6 from Harold Jacoby's book. This height of the sun or any star in the sky is called its altitude. And so the altitude is always an angle to be measured in degrees and minutes. The point directly overhead is the zenith. The angle between lines drawn to horizon and zenith is 90 degrees, or a right angle. What do we hear them saying? It's not a right angle. It's not a triangle. Is it 90? Well, if you twist my finger, maybe. All right, then that's the cover of the book. The next slide, Harold Jacoby, Navigation. Let's go circle of equal altitude. Tell me when you're there.
Yes.
Okay,
with the blue
so
background or
yeah. Yeah, yellow pole, yellow.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is depicting if you take a angle measurement, and it's 50 degrees, you could be anywhere on that circle, 50 degrees. That's a flat bottom right there. That's a 90. That's a triangle. Next slide. Stars are at infinite distance. Stars are at infinite distance according to them. So the angle from the center matches the angle from that top, as long as you put a tangent plane. Nonsense. No one's at the center on a flat plane taking a Sextant measurement. They're on the surface on a flat plane taking the measurement. They just transpose it to the center here. What a joke. Next. This is the funniest thing ever. 3 sides.
Oh, I think we lost you there. Give us a mic check. You might have had to call people. I don't know. Give them a second. How's everybody else doing?
This is another destroyer here. Now that I understand it, I'm just gonna ramble that off.
Am I back?
Yes.
Oh, did you miss this, or should I talk about it again?
Yeah, we missed the ones with the blue the blue sphere. I guess that's supposed to be the prediction.
You got the 3 stars with the 3 circles on the blue sphere, right?
Yes.
Okay, see the red dot? That's the observer he's got to fix. They're showing you 3 right triangles, and they're putting the 90-degree box symbol in each one, and they're saying this works on the curved adjacent. Paradox. Can't work. Next slide. You can see B and A in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they drawing that line on the top? And why is the horizon not bending? I thought we lived on the ball.
Right.
Next slide. See the sketch here of a guy looking through the center?
Yep.
Who's there? Who's there at the center of a presupposed sphere? Nobody. But
his
guess
horizon
what?
is from the equatorial plane. That's insane.
Nonsense. Okay, let's move on. Here's star 1. 1 circle of equal altitude. 90-degree, right angle, line of position. Next slide shows 2 more star sightings, just so you can get a fix. By measuring the angles to 3 known stars, and the observer knows his location. That's 3 radius from the center of each circle of equal altitude where the star's GP is to the observer, all being straight. for thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of ocean. The globe is a lie. Next slide. Here's a astrolabe doing the same thing. Horizon, star, you see a curved surface?
Not in sight.
And if there was, the tool couldn't work. And if there was, the sextant couldn't work. Because sextant is an angle measuring device. Next slide. You see the depictions of the sun rising and setting?
Mm-hmm.
Start from the right. Early morning, the sun is rising in the horizon at a 0 angle. Mid-morning, the sun is getting higher at an acute angle. Noon, the sun is at the zenith directly overhead, right angle. Afternoon, the sun is setting lower, obtuse angle. Evening, the sun is ready to set at very obtuse angle, almost a straight angle. Where's the curve? Sextant can't work if there was. Next slide.
These slides are just giving emotional damage. Like it's
All from
too
their
much.
sites. All from their sites. All from their sites. All from their books. Okay, here's the Navy side again. Here's a Navy battleship, it looks like, of some kind. Now you see sea level, right? See that where it says sea level? Hello. Did I skip out? You can still hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, all right. So here's sea level. Where's the navigator? Is he at sea level or is he on top of the ship somewhere?
He's right on top of the ship.
Oh, so he's got to do dip correction. What does it say dip correction is? Accounts for height above
The sea level.
Why doesn't it say sea curvature? See, this is where they got to make it geometric. It's got to be a right angle. Now, if he had a bubble sextant and that ship wasn't moving at all, he can get this horizontal at his eye line and still make it work. But because he's at sea, bubble sextants aren't used at sea. But bubble sextants don't need dip either, which is a clue. Because if he did have a bubble sextant and the sea was perfectly calm, that would mean the sea is parallel to the horizontal of the bubble, flat again. Next. You see the sun with the arrows going in all directions?
Yep.
Adam Meakin says photons leaving the sun go in all directions. Is he right? He is right. What did they say? Next slide. They say this.
There it is.
Yeah, they say the sun is coming parallel light. How is that possible? I thought the sun was a round object. How can it be sending parallel light? It's got to go in every direction. Oh, so far away that by the time it reaches us, it's parallel. Well, how come then every picture I see is divergent? That's the number one lie. It's not parallel. But they need it for their model to be parallel, because then they can make the Earth's surface curve. But guess what? We just showed you the sextant can't work on the Earth's surface that curves. So it's over. Next. Here's a picture of a divergent ray. I thought it was coming in parallel. Next slide. Here's a picture of a divergent ray. I thought it was parallel. Next slide.
We're a little behind. There we go. Yep. It's
divergent rays. Another one.
That's
should be on the
picture there.
More divergent rays. Stop at the one with the doggy cam. You got the doggy cam from the altitude balloon?
Just this one.
Eli?
I don't think he's there.
Well, he's got to be moving the slides.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'll wait for him.
Okay.
The doggy cam.
Sorry, phone is freezing up a little bit.
Oh.
So you're on the blue divergent rays. You need to go till you get to the doggy
Doggy
cam.
cam. Yeah, the one from the altitude balloon. He's having freezing problems.
There it is.
Okay. Okay, so it's on screen?
Yep.
Okay, so see that hot spot? What do you think that hot spot is? Coming from the Earth or from the sun?
I think it's the angle between the sun and the hot spot is formed between the camera angle and that Earth reflecting right off of it, coming to you like a mirror off the
Okay.
top of the clouds.
So the sun is directly over. That's why you have a hot spot directly under.
Ah,
If you took that to the Earth's surface, that would be the GP, the ground position of that sun. Next slide. Tell me when you're there. Are you there? Solar zenith angle.
didn't change yet.
Okay, tell me when it does. Thanks for your help, by the way.
Sure. I figured he was having problems when he started not responding. Okay, next slide.
We're there, solar zenith angle.
Yep.
Okay, so we just saw the doggy cam. Pretend this is the sun with the doggy cam. It's directly over that part of the Earth. And because we live on the flat Earth, there's your baseline, and your angle to it could be from anywhere from the outside of that circle, or if you're directly under it, you're right under it. Next slide.
Yep.
Okay, good. So let's take that sun now and say it's over there. Where are you? You're over here where the two lines meet, creating the vertex. So your elevation angle, the altitude angle is right there. The azimuth that starts from the north is your direction horizontally. And the zenith is the co-altitude. So if this was 50-degree angle, what's 50 minus 90? Anybody?
40 degrees.
What's 40 times 60? 2,400 miles.
Yep.
You're 2,400 miles from the GP of that star to your vertex. That's the co-altitude zenith complement angle. Next slide.
Yep.
A little bit more detail. Same thing. Elevation angle measured up from the horizon. Zenith angle measured from vertical. Azimuth angle measured from north.
Next slide.
Yeah, I know. I got to get to it. No, it's okay. My screen just did something. Okay, next slide. So you see the sun and the big blue ball and the height of eye. Is that the one?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So here's the center of the Earth where they say all the angle measurements originate from. But then they got a dotted line up here. And then they got a height of eye where the vertex is. And then they've got actual horizon, which is the dotted line, if height of eye is 0 minutes, 0 seconds. So if I get my eye on the water, I'm at 0, 0. And that's the dotted line. Okay, what's this angled down solid line called horizon? Well, that's their geometric horizon that doesn't exist. Thank you, Black Swan. So everything under the dotted line you could just excuse as a lie. Because you can't get an angle off a curved adjacent, and there's no one at the center of the Earth, like they say, where the angle originates from. It's got to be from the surface, and the surface has to be that equatorial plane, not where they say it is, but what the Earth is. Next slide. Are we going smoothly?
Yes, so far so good.
The Earth in the sky, is that the one you see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from where we stand, Earth appears what?
Motionless.
No, what's it read?
Oh. From where we stand, Earth appears flat, and the sky appears like a dome above us. Wow.
From their own pages. What's going on here? The point where the dome of the sky meets the Earth is called the...
Horizon. Whoa.
Why don't you just confess it? Get over with it.
Confess your love for the flat Earth.
Here we go. Next slide. Next slide. Altitude azimuth. We can measure the location of objects in the sky using pairs of angles. Here's one way. Altitude is the angle above the horizon. Azimuth is the angle around the horizon, clockwise from north. North is 12 noon, east is 3, and so on. I don't know what to tell you. How can you have this and at the same time claim we live on a sphere?
Beats me.
Okay, next slide. Right angle. A turn of an angle is how many degrees? It rotates around the central point. What's the central point? Is the center of their ball. So I thought they were getting the angle from the surface. No, you can't because it's a curved adjacent. Well, you can't be getting it from the center because you're not there because the ball is presupposed. You have to prove. You can't even prove curvature, let alone say you're at the center or something. Next slide. See a vertex?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, so ray 1, ray 2. Vertex on an angle is the end point where two line segments or rays come together. Can you have a vertex with two straight lines and the bottom one be bulgy or curved?
No.
Ball game over. Next slide. The sphere, perfectly round, three-dimensional shape, like a ball. It has only one curved surface. So Sextant can't work on this. Sorry, no vertices on the curved surface.
Has it right there?
I have
Next
one more
slide.
quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go on.
Is that I gather they claim that they have a horizontal plane from the center of their ball. Is that the only or their best response that you've heard about this?
They haven't even brought that up. They're so afraid to go there because that's the only place you can have a equatorial plane is on the equator line, and you slice the Earth in half and make it flat. That's the only way it can work.
None of them have actually brought that up to
I
you
can't
as an argument.
I can't wait because hang
Yeah.
on, let me answer. I can't
Go
wait
ahead.
because then I'll say welcome to flat Earth.
That's all I had. Go ahead, Rod.
You got the next slide, Eli tangent plane.
Tangent plane, yep.
Okay, x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. Your angle upwards. You need that plane underneath. It doesn't work without it. That's why they always have one there. They either have a tangent plane or a tangent line, dotted line. They can't do it off a curved surface. End of story. Sextant can't work with a curved adjacent. It's an angle measuring device. It's over. Next slide. Tell me when you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you got a circle here. You got a diameter. If you say what's half of the diameter, it'd be a radius. What's a chord? Yeah, you can see where the chord is, and then you could see a point of tangency at one point only. Right?
Yep.
What's the problem here for them?
The tangent point, where the tangent meets the crest of their globe from that observer's perspective. The problem with that is the horizon isn't geometric.
It's refracted, right?
Right, if you're getting an angle reading from what you see, then
This
it's
is,
over for them.
listen, they say there are no straight lines because it's refracted, so you can't even have this. But what's
Mel
worse,
Bernie figured that out.
say this is where the Black Swan kills him. Black Swan destroys the globe. Sextant proves it's flat. Now, if the star or sun is 3,000 miles away from you, from the GP to you, then it's somewhere where, how could it work on that curved surface? It would be a chord. You'd have to go right through the Earth. So if you were on this part at the chord at one side, and then you go all the way to the other side where it touches the circumference of the circle, all that arc of Earth, you have to go through it to get to the GP, plus your zenith angles will be diverging, and it wouldn't work. It's over for these people.
Yep.
Next slide. Angles in parallel lines. So you see the corresponding angles to the right. That's what they're trying to achieve by the angle from the center and the angle on the surface when they draw that line. But it couldn't work with a curved adjacent. But just so you know what they're trying to do.
Okay.
Next slide. Protractor.
Yep.
See
That's
that?
the one I had in grade school right there. Yep.
See that bottom image there? It looks like a snow globe with the 90.
Man.
You need a flat baseline. You can't get an angle. Sextant's angle measuring device. How about this one? Celestial horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you are using a plane to get your angle from. It's called the celestial horizon. So I could forget everything below that celestial horizon because it's not a ball. It's that snow globe again. And now here they got sunlight coming in parallel so that the plane, the boat, all match up with the plane at the center of nothing because there is no ball. It's flat Earth put from the surface to the center, but you can't make it work from the surface if it's curved.
Right. That's insane.
Next slide.
I mean, yeah, I got it.
Well, again, it's just all over the place. You can't get an angle without a flat plane, and they have to cut the globe in half to do it.
That is hilarious. That little character in the middle.
Next slide. Here's two stars, Rigel and Alphard, and the GP, and the navigator has to be either at the bottom near South America, or he's got to be at the top where it crosses, since he knows his previous day's ship log and he knows his dead reckoning position. He's got to fix with just two stars right there. But he's somewhere on that circle with a radius of the GP of each of those stars. Thousands and thousands of miles of flat here.
And they have to be parallel.
Yeah.
These are the circles of equal altitude that have to be parallel with one another.
Yep.
So the radii have to be parallel.
Exactly. Okay, we're on the last slide now. So what's the trick? The trick is you need a flat plane to have a sextant work. A sextant's angle measuring device. An angle is two straight lines meeting at the vertex. So where did they say it's coming from? Got to cut the globe in half. Sorry. We're doing it from the surface. That's where the boat is. That's where the navigator is. That's where the sextant is. It needs to be flat up there, but it's not on this depiction. It's curved, so it's not working. So where do all the measurements come from? From the Nautical Almanac, from the center, because there's a plane there. And so you measure 40-degree angle, not from the surface. Curved adjacent won't let you, so you did it from the center. And guess what? Minus half of 90 is 50. 50 times 60 nautical miles, you're 3,000 nautical miles from the GP of that star to you. It's measured flat because the Earth is flat. They trick you with pictures and say it's coming from the center. It's not. It's coming from the surface because we live on a plane. I think that's the last slide.
Yeah, man. Beautiful, beautiful presentation of slides here. I mean, as you go through them, you can see it's just pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious what they're trying to depict, and they're trying to depict that it's a plane without telling you that it's a plane for some reason. But it's blaringly obvious. So thank you for that, Tenth, and thank you for coming over to 24/7, man, and having this conversation with my peoples over here. I've been wanting them to get more information for a long time, because once everybody understands this and they see what's going on here, I mean, it's over. It's only a matter of time.
Thank you for having me, Eli.
So why don't you go ahead and tell them where they can see you or see us once again before
Okay,
we round up.
10th Man Rising is my YouTube channel. I'll be posting stuff there from all my research in the coming, I'll say, years, but not right away because I'm busy 5 days a week at Flat Earth Debates with Nathan Oakley. So join that channel. You'll hear me 5 days a week. I'm constantly putting newer slides, constantly making the argument stronger with my fellow panel members who have done their own research. It's just like an open source now because when everyone gets to see the source material, everyone could share, and there's different viewpoints that Brian's Logic brings to it. Adam Meakin, Rob Durham, Mitchell from Australia, Flatzoid, Refracted Curvature. I think he's onto something big because he's taken how they trick people and he's going to show his kitchen is spherical. I mean, it's the funniest thing. You can see how they trick it once you see refracted curvature make his kitchen spherical, because that's what they're doing. Of course, Eli, you do stuff all the time. QE's channel takes this on head on, destroys them. Michael Kahn's got a few things going as well. KHAN, his YouTube channel. And but if they want to see lively debates, when the ballers do come on, we take them on, and they just get obliterated by the Sextant argument. Just get killed.
All right. All right. Well, once again, we want to thank you for coming on, and thank you for everybody coming in tonight and checking out this live stream. Thank you very much, Helio, for providing the live stream. Much appreciated, man. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace.
You're watching 24/7 Flat Earth Discord live.